This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there he is, locked and loaded. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Not as angry as you about this whole New York thing.
It's just so silly. There is no.
You know what? There's two things. The rivalry is silly because it's more than 20 years ago. Bam was 3. Tyler wasn't born. But I will say this. The NBA is in a better place when the Lakers and the Knicks matter. And the fact is, and I got to tell you, I have been to so many Heat Knicks games over the last, I don't know, I'd say decade or so, where there were more Heat fans in that building. And last night, yesterday afternoon, that building was electric. And if you can generate that and people know what the Garden is like, it means everything. So when you look at the teams, there's so many of the NBA's sort of it teams around still. The Warriors, the Lakers, the Sixers, the Celtics, the Heat, the Knicks. That's a very good thing for this league right now. I think that's what matters about the Knicks. What matters about the Knicks is they're at New York.
Winning. They have to really start winning for a few years before we actually, because right now it's just a novelty. It's nothing. They're really nothing in the NBA landscape. They haven't earned anything. The only reason they get thrusted forward so much, it's because of the media market, not because of anything else. And that's just, to me, the part that's silly. Oh, the rivalry. Not one player on either team is part of any kind of history, rich history of Heat Knicks. Come on, man. Let's just relax with all that stuff. It's just silly. But I got to say, obviously, look, Jimmy, we almost take him for granted in what he does. But, Gabe Vincent, I got to give him a lot of love. He didn't shoot at a great percentage, yesterday, but he did hit key baskets. And he's been monstrous for over a month now. We've talked about it. And there's certain guys, Caleb Martin, I thought yesterday had an enormous block at the end of that game to kind of help seal that thing off. Lowry hit some shots. He actually played well yesterday. Jack Harlow even got a feel and everything. So it was an interesting game yesterday, and some guys did step up around. Yeah,
Jimmy. It's funny because I actually used your analogy that you don't like to sort of put it in perspective. No, Gabe Vincent, was not Tim Hardaway. No, Kevin Love was not PJ Brown. No, Caleb Martin was not Dan Marley. But they did those types of things when you needed them. Because it was always about supporting Alonzo Mourning back in the day. It's about supporting Jimmy Butler right now. And it's that little nuanced efforts that can make such a difference in tight, competitive, close, ongoing NBA basketball series. So the Heat got really big when you look through who the Heat played yesterday. They might have got some of the best of those players. Can they do it again? Kevin Love's 3 outlet passes set a tone in the game. I told Kevin Love this story after the game. I went to his locker. I said, I got to tell you, I used to do a radio show down here with a former Miami Dolphins player named Jim Mandich. When you were coming out in the draft, you were in the same draft class as Derrick Rose and Michael Beasley. And Jim Mandich told me when I was doing the show, he said, if we draft an outlet passer instead of one of these high-scoring guys, I'm going to kill someone, because Kevin Love is known for those outlet passes at UCLA. And I told him the story, and he goes, well, at least I made good on it then. So you know what? He's always had that skill. It's remarkable how just the flick of the wrist. I can imagine the strength in those hands of his, but he really turned the game in the third quarter when the Knicks were going to lock him down. We're not going to let him rebound. And all of a sudden the ball's going 3 straight passes at least 60 feet. So Kevin Love did his thing. Caleb Martin was Marley-like to a degree with the effort. Didn't have to give you the statistics. I even said you could almost put Kyle Lowry at 37 in the Terry Porter role. The aging guy who had his success somewhere having his moments. But, Big O, is it sustainable? We'll see that tomorrow night.
Well, I think it's sustainable in this series because it's not like the Knicks are really that much better than the Miami Heat when they're playing well. And that's really the bottom line.
I agree. I agree.
If we're talking about the Celtics and they have a great game against the Celtics in game 1, then I'm worried, can you maintain? Because that's a great team. You're not facing a great team. And I know they're missing Julius Randle, But hell, Miami's missing, Tyler Hero.
Victor
Jimmy got
Oladipo.
banged up.
Yeah.
3 guys fouled out yesterday, right? Didn't
Yep.
guys foul out yesterday? So, they were at their own disadvantages throughout that game, and yet they found a way to overcome. And look, I don't want to lessen any kind of the accomplishments, but they've gotten the breaks that they need here. Giannis went down for 2 games. They did their part in all of this, and they ended up winning. Now you follow up here in this one. You're not facing, in the second round, a juggernaut. You're facing a decent team. You have a puncher's chance here again to win in this one. Well, you opened it up with a 1-0 lead. That's the beauty of this matchup here. This is not an insurmountable matchup. This isn't Boston and the Panthers that at every turn you're nervous about against the Bruins, because you knew the Bruins were so damn good this year. You're like thinking, man, how in the hell are they going to hang with these guys? That's not what I'm thinking in this series.
Yes.
And that's why, it's if you have look, who's the best player on the court? Jimmy Butler. So in the NBA, if you usually have the best player on the court and then there's not that huge difference in the rest of the way, well, then you're going to have a chance. And that's exactly where they stand right now.
Yeah, no, and again, you're right about this series. Again, the Heat really found the path of least resistance. Giannis out for 2.5 games, coming in here against the number 5 seed. Like you said, the Knicks were a 5 seed. They're an average team. And there wasn't much separation between number 5 and number 8 or number 7, where the Heat finished in the standings in the first place. They were right there. So if the Heat beat the Knicks, it's not an upset. It's just not. It's just the second tier of the East all season. You were talking to me about Milwaukee and Boston and Philly as being separated themselves. The Heat had an upset, a legitimate upset in the first round. But if they beat the Knicks, or if they had played the Cavaliers and beaten the Cavaliers, not an upset. Second-tier teams in the East. Hey, if the Heat can get past this and they win another series against the Boston or Philly, then we can talk about the upstart team really making some noise with the completely unexpected. Unexpected is Heat over Bucks. Unexpected is Panthers over Celtics. Not unexpected is Heat over Knicks. I'm not so sure how unexpected Panthers over Maple Leafs would be right now with how the standings played out in the NHL also. So you got your upset. Now go and do your grunt work.
Okay, so now this whole other discussion has happened, and then there's only one problem I have with the discussion that people are having, that the Heat have never shown a DNA to ever do this kind of shit. So Jimmy Butler's injured. The ankle, somebody said that it looked like an avocado after the game. Did you see it? Did it look like an avocado?
You know what? It just, again, that's just overstating so you can say, hey, I saw something, I posted it. Jimmy was walking fine after, but it's an ankle. And I was told by someone close to him this. You've got to know about the first 24 hours. You don't know anything right away. It's what happens after. Does it swell up and explode and you can't get your damn sneaker on, or can you move? Between you and me, Big O, if I had to guess right now as we're talking on our Acura Pembroke Pines report, I'd say he could probably be listed as doubtful for Tuesday. You've got to be careful. And here's the other part of that equation. They're off Wednesday. They're off Thursday. They're off Friday. You got to be smart about this also, don't you?
Yes, but here's the problem I have with all of this.
Okay.
I totally understand the people that say, hold out Jimmy now, man. Maybe you can give him a game. Who knows? You surprise him, whatever. And then he gets almost a week off and he gets time and he gets more fresh for game 3. You already did what you had to do. All of that makes sense. But this is not an organization that does that. They usually don't have players that are willing to do that. You're not going to hold out Tim. You're not going to hold out Zoe. You're not going to hold out Wade. You're not going to hold out just the DNA of Jimmy Butler is balls out all the way. The DNA of Spo and Riley is balls out, all the way. So I get it. It does make a lot of sense. Hey, you did your damage. Hold them out. What the hell? Give them the rest. But knowing these people, it's like they go all out, man. And I'm just, would Jimmy really sit down?
I think he would. I think he would, the way he was feeling at the end of the game, knowing that he has a shot in this series, knowing that if he's right for 2 home games, he might be in a better position than going through a tight game, a 50-50 game on Tuesday. And then
I
all
hope
of a
so.
sudden he doesn't have the rest. So I think he's going to be careful. Look, this is all trainers and medical as much as anything, as much as it is Jimmy also. We do know this. Jimmy has his own training staff. The Heat have their own training staff. They will do everything possible. And the good thing, Big O, you're going from an afternoon game to an evening game. So you get those extra 12 hours that you wouldn't have if we were talking late night like the Panthers last night. So you just have time. It's going to be one of these. You can see a lot of online speculation. I would be very, very surprised if a final decision is made any time before the pregame interviews tomorrow at Madison Square Garden.
I'm sure that it ain't going to be made until game time, whether he plays or not. I'm sure the Heat, come on, bro. They keep everything secret. We still don't know what Green was high on in that lobby. I mean, they're just the best at this. Okay, all right. So what's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me right now, as we're talking, doing our Acura Pembroke Pines report, my gut tells me I think it's more than 50-50 he sits out. I just don't think you push that at this moment when you've regained home court to a degree and you feel comfortable enough. Now, what they have left, I can't tell you. I mean, it's not like they're turning to Tyler or turning to Vic, so that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, no, obviously this gets and then Julius Randle. What happens with Julius Randle? Because obviously they are going to need Julius Randle in order to win in this series.
Yeah, and again, remember he got injured on March 29th against the Heat. So that's the difference. This isn't something that just happened in Game 5 against Cleveland. This has been ongoing. I don't think he's going to be right. Yeah, again, we hear the word ankle sprain. There's a high ankle sprain. There's degrees of ankle sprain. No two ankle sprains are the same. So to compare what Jimmy has to what Julius Randle has would be wrong also. But Julius Randle's been off now. We're talking about, 3 weeks? So it's not something where you've been off for 3 weeks and boom, you're going to come back and be yourself. I'll be very curious.
Sprains are super unstable.
Yeah. I would be curious to see what he looks like. I need to see what he looks like first before we go from there.
Yeah, and they have said it's a high ankle sprain, right?
They have not. They have not. If they said high ankle sprain, it'd be different. But again, they don't say much. It's better than hockey with upper body injury, but not that much better.
Yeah, but you're already telling me high ankle sprain when it's taking this long, because ankle sprains don't take this long.
Well, it depends what grade it is also. It depends on the grade of the sprain, yeah.
Yeah, but normally ankle sprains, they don't take this long at all. You would have been already back with a regular ankle sprain. If it's this, then it's a high ankle sprain, because that's the ones that become very unstable and you're very easily retwisting those things. Because I've had the high ankle sprains and they are just absolutely terrible overall. All right, health-wise, everybody else all right?
Hewitt Highsmith was limping off the court at one point last night. The Heat didn't mention him at all in their injury report. They're not going to issue an injury report till about 5:30 today, so we have to wait on that. Look, no, everything is not all right. Kyle Lowry is still dealing with that knee pain. It's like people are asking me if Jimmy's out, could Kyle start? I don't think Kyle has that many minutes in him that you can make him a 40-minute player. So I think if Jimmy is out, you're probably going to turn to Caleb Martin. It's going to hurt your bench rotation. You're just running out of bodies at this time, and you need a go-to guy. And I'll tell you who else is hurting. I walked out after the game next to Bam Adebayo. That hamstring is bad. It wasn't like Fred Sanford for the older people in our crowd here, but he was not walking well. His gait was off. You could see he was dragging a leg. Again, this is not a guy who's complained about it. This is not a guy who's mentioned the hamstring unless asked and prefers not to be asked, but he's not 100%. He's not himself. And you can see that, Big O. He's fumbling the ball a little bit more. He's not as solid in his game. I believe this about Bam. He is doing everything he possibly can on that hamstring. I'm surprised it's not on the Heat injury report, but it is a real injury. And as much as you know about ankles, hamstrings can linger forever.
Oh, yeah, no, those things apparently will last forever. Yeah, those are usually it's hard to get healthy from a hamstring in a season.
Well, or in weeks or months, let alone days. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially you're playing the game of basketball, which, Jesus Christ,
right?
You live off your damn hamstrings every time. All right, are you expecting? You're expecting Caleb to start? Is what
I would think if Jimmy can start. I mean, you could start Haywood Highsmith, I guess. I don't think you can start Kyle Lowry because I don't think he's up to starters minutes. I don't see Duncan Robinson and Max Strus starting against that Knicks lineup, because then who the hell guards anyone? Duncan was not very good yesterday. 0 for 5 from the field, missed all 3 of his 3-point attempts. I think you can afford to have one of the two on the court. I'm not sure you can afford to have both. Now, you know Spo, he likes to keep his rotations, so he might like to keep Caleb in that bench role, but I think he would be the logical quote-unquote next man up.
And by the way, the whole thing with Gabe starting and Lowry off the bench, that's exactly the way it should be right now at this point. Gabe has earned that right.
Yes.
He's developing really nicely into a point guard as it is. And clearly, he's got every green light in the world, brother.
Well, you know what? Because he has Tyler Hero's green light and he has Victor Oladipo's green light, because there's not a lot of green lights to give out. I mean, look at this Heat starting lineup. Kevin Love is a one-trick pony with the threes. He's not going to force any dribble drives. Bam Adebayo and Jimmy are the two scorers, basically. Max is a specialist. You know, there's plenty of shots there now for Gabe. Maybe he has to mix it up a little bit, but you know what? He kept his defender occupied, and that's what you want in that kind of matchup. Remember, when the playoffs started, Giannis Antetokounmpo was the defender against Gabe Vincent. Didn't guard him at all. He was a free safety. He was in the middle of the lane. So you can't put out someone there who's not a threat. Gabe made himself a threat last night.
I kind of like Gabe when he's set shooting the three. When it's kind of in motion and moving, and he's got to, get it off quickly. It just doesn't seem like that's his shot. You know what I mean? But when he gets to get in a groove and stop and set and shoot, that's when you have a really good feeling that thing is.
Again, he's a 6'2" player. So you're just at a point right now where it's harder for him to create space.
All right, what do you got working on the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Well, it's interesting because I wrote about Gabe Vincent, just posted it at the Sun Sentinel. People forget last year he was the starting point guard in the playoffs also. Kyle went out against Atlanta. He stepped in. When that series was over, Trae Young basically said, who the hell is that guy? He's pretty damn good. And so I spoke to Kyle alone on the side and him saying, all the experience I got last year is paying off now. Because until you're in the playoffs, you don't realize what the playoffs are all about. And now we can see the difference that it's making. In my Ask Ira, I wrote about how the Heat absolutely have to be prudent with Jimmy Butler. Like you said, Big O, even if they have to fight him and his people, they have to do the best for whatever it takes to get 4 total wins in this series against the Knicks. I'm not being like Giannis. We're saying they were going for a championship instead of trying to win each game. I'm not saying the Heat are looking ahead, but you have to look out for how can we get the best Jimmy Butler to produce 3 more wins. I think that's the decision today. I think that's the decision tomorrow.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, thank you, my brother. We'll catch up again. Appreciate you.
Catch you on our next Acura Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
You got it.
This is the Big O Show. This is the